So now comes to planning the surgery. And this is the part where I really wanted to do my due diligence. Okay. Hopefully my phone stays this time. So it basically keeps overheating because I am in Arizona right now and it does get hot in the house because I don't like to turn on the AC too much. I'm usually going in and out of the house anyway. But where was I? Birth control. So,
hey guys. Editing me is here today because I have somehow lost an entire segment of this chapter of my endo story. So I'm having to supplement with a new video to get from where I was in my last chapter up until the conversation about birth control. So basically where I left off was me knowing I needed to get surgery and how I was going to go about getting the best possible surgeon. So the first thing I did was I started looking at clinical data and clinical research to show what kinds of surgery had been basically the best for endo, what gave the best outcomes. And I found that doing a minimally invasive, robotic, laparoscopic surgery with excision instead of ablation, excision was going to have the best long-lasting and promising results for advanced endo. So the first thing was that, okay, I wanted somebody to be doing a robotic laparoscopy with excision. So I started looking at that. The second thing was that I wanted somebody who dealt with minimally invasive surgeries as the major part of their practice. So as an OBGYN, yes, you're qualified to give surgery. And this is something that you can even do, a couple of times a month. But I wanted somebody who did this a couple of times a week, where this was like their primary part of their practice. This is what they did. Somebody that was very expert at what to look for, catching every single detail was really important to me. And third, these are all equally important, but third was that this was somebody who specialized in maintaining and preserving fertility, because that was my biggest concern through this whole journey. And with endo, it's like, yeah, you can go in there and cut it out, but you can also cut out a lot of other stuff too. So you can end up damaging your ovarian reserve or other structures. You can create way more scar tissue that needs to be created if you are not a provider who is mindful of preserving the utmost fertility at all costs. So those were my three major things I was looking for. I looked around in the DC area because that's where I was at the time, and I looked around in the Phoenix area because I knew that's where I was going to be for the few months over the summer. So coincidentally, I was really surprised, but Phoenix had the best options for me. I originally found this fertility clinic that I absolutely loved. I loved everything about them. So I called to get some information, and then finally I called to try to set an appointment. And one of the questions they asked me was I actively trying to conceive? So unfortunately, that clinic only worked with women who are actively trying to conceive. Like, you're trying to pop out a baby as soon as possible. So they weren't able to serve me, and I thought I was going to end that conversation so sad and so disappointed. But then they actually told me, they were like, look, we actually have two providers that we highly recommend for women who want these same services but aren't actively trying to conceive. And so the surgeon she actually owned this clinic, she said that these are the top two people that if you didn't come to me, I would want you to go to them. And I looked at those two providers, and after getting some information about both of them, calling and talking to the office staff, I chose one of them, and I made an appointment with her. I was very excited, but also very nervous just to see how everything would work. So I made an appointment with her, and this was months ahead of time. So I made this appointment in the very beginning of April, and the soonest they could get me in was the very beginning of May. So it was a whole month to get in, but I had called super early because basically as soon as I found out about what was going on, I tried to set up appointments. So basically way down the line, this is after I finished school and everything like that, I come to Arizona and I go to my appointment, and the first thing that we do is just talk originally. I had sent her all of my ultrasound results, all of my like labs, basically anything that I had that related to maybe cysts, endo, fertility, anything, I had sent that all to her. So basically she had read those thoroughly. She brought them all up in our appointment and we talked about a few things. She immediately identified my case as probably aggressive because of the growth that she saw on my ultrasounds that we talked about before. But she brought something to my attention that I had kind of skated over in a previous part of the story because I didn't know any better and I didn't know it was a problem. But this is where the hydrosalphinx that I was mentioning in a previous chapter, which I'll link like right here too, just in case you guys are interested in when I was in the ER and I first got a diagnosis of endometriosis and kind of what that experience was like. But hydrosalphinx, she was very concerned about that because like I had said, it's basically when you have a blockage in your fallopian tube and fluid starts to build up and build up and build up. And unfortunately, the only way to fix that problem is by removing the fallopian tube. So this is what we had going on. My left ovary had definitely an endometrioma on it. I hope that's not too loud. The air conditioning thing just kicked on. But the endometrioma was on my left. I had this alleged cyst on my left side as well. But then based off of the imaging that we had received, it was possible that I had a hydrosalphinx on my right side. And so she said that in her cases, when she sees these aggressive endometriosis cases, when she starts thinking about hydrosalphinx, what she's thinking is that the endometrial tissue has actually built up and incidentally blocked the fallopian tube. And again, the only real way to treat that is to remove the fallopian tube. And at that point, you can think I was like falling apart because I was thinking my left side is messed up. My right side has to be removed. I mean, I literally started spinning. And then she kind of took the reins and was just like, okay, well, here's something that we can talk about. One, we have to get your imaging done here so we can really look, we know exactly what to look for and we can really look in detail. But she was saying that ultimately, because I do have so much inflammation and I probably have this advanced endo, that essentially she would consider leaving my right fallopian tube there, even though she said she never wants to plan for a second surgery. She's like, I would leave your fallopian tube there, your right one, get everything out, clean you up, have you looking really, really good, and we can see maybe it's just inflammation tissue that's swollen and kind of built up. Maybe that will go down and it will clear a path for your right fallopian tube. And she was like, because you're so young and you want to maintain as much fertility as possible, I'd rather take that risk. She did say that the only caveat would be that I would have to make sure that I don't accidentally get pregnant because with the blocked fallopian tube, it doesn't create a lot of problems until a fertilized egg gets stuck there. And then the biggest risk is ectopic pregnancy, which is definitely fatal to the embryo, and it can be very fatal to the mother as well if it's not removed or caught in time. So that's the biggest risk with a hydrosalphinx. But she said, basically, as long as you're not trying to get pregnant, and then we started talking about birth control for hormonal therapy for my condition anyway. She said that she would rather take the risk of seeing if it can clear up rather than yank out my fallopian tube, which is definitely going to decrease my fertility by like 50% while I'm having these other issues on my left side. So I was very emotional at the time when I was having these conversations because that completely destroyed me. Obviously, it's been like 6 weeks since then, so I'm in a definitely different place. But that, I literally, my heart sunk to the ground. I was so sick. I literally like started crying. I was like crying every day, multiple times a day. Like I was really falling apart in that moment. But you know, we discussed that. What else could we do but wait until the next appointment for the imaging? So we discussed that, and then we started talking about birth control essentially. And she was saying that even without the imaging and everything like that for so far, she said that we could wait to see what was happening, but more than likely she would want me to get on a hormonal therapy because when she sees endometriosis that looks this advanced, even before she does the surgery, she was saying that the birth control can actually clean a lot of it up, calm it down, and it's much easier for her to work with. Especially because I was going to be approaching my period. I think my period was due the actual day I was going to have surgery. So essentially, you imagine all of that estrogen is building up. It's getting my tissue really, really upset. So basically, by me getting on the hormone therapy ahead of time, I was going to keep all of that at bay, and it makes it easier for her to clearly see everything and navigate everything. So that was something we talked about, and that's how we ended up getting to the conversation that I started this video with. So back to the video, guys. Again, remember to like, subscribe, comment about your experience or any questions that you might have about my journey, and I'll see you guys the next time I record live, which is actually soon, today. Alrighty, bye guys.
Birth control. So yeah, so I basically told her, I was like, if I can avoid it, I did want to avoid putting hormones in my body again. I told her that, it took me so long to wean off from it. Literally, I tried to get off for like 2 years. I was finally 2 years off of it and able to be, well, obviously not, but I was like, I was doing okay. My cycles were okay. And she basically told me as gently as she could that being that my endo seemed so aggressive and so severe, that if I really, really wanted to increase the best possible chances that I have to conceive and conceive naturally, that it's in my best interest to take some type of hormonal therapy, because she was basically saying that that's going to keep all the inflammation at bay because it's going to keep my estrogen at bay. So the hormone therapy that she was talking about in this case is actually a progesterone only pill. I think a lot of IUDs are progesterone only, and there are a lot of birth controls that people actually use for like contraception, as in not getting pregnant, that are progesterone only. But I had only ever had a combination pill, and I told her, basically, I can't remember what's already recorded and what's not. So if I repeat stuff, I'll just have to like cut it out, basically. But I had really done absolutely fine on birth control before. I wasn't really nervous about the actual birth control itself. It was just kind of like the fact that I didn't really want to put hormones in my body again, especially because I was trying to like just keep everything clean and simple and really look at my nutrition and wellness that way instead of like being on a medication. But at the end of the day, like I said in the beginning or in my first video, endo is really caused by inflammation, and that inflammation is often triggered by estrogen peaks. Because when you have that estrogen, that tissue gets to growing. It's like, yummy, yummy, yummy. And it starts swelling up, it starts doing crazy things, and it starts getting really, really inflamed. So that's where a lot of that, not only does the tissue growth come from, but a lot of that pain. That's why you feel it around ovulation, around your period. That's why it gets the worst. And so doing a combination birth control that I knew would work for me, as far as like I don't have any negative experiences, the problem is that it still has estrogen in it. So you're running a slippery slope. Like, yes, it's a controlled amount of estrogen, but at the same time, it's like that's counterintuitive because estrogen is what makes your disease worse. And essentially, estrogen plus progesterone is a little bit more effective at preventing pregnancy, but that's not why I'm taking the medication. So overall, progesterone is the best thing to do, because what it's going to do is it's pretty much going to eliminate your cycles, which is why she wanted me to take it. Her goal was that I am basically eliminating my periods, and I am decreasing the chances that I'll ovulate. because if that's the case, I won't have those extreme spikes in estrogen during my cycle anymore. So that essentially is the goal. Of course, it does act as a contraceptive, but again, we call it birth control because it's layman's terms, but this is a real medication. It is, even if you're trying to use it as oral contraceptive to prevent pregnancy, it's still a real medication, obviously, but this is for an actual disease. And it's really, I've been thinking about it like that. Like, this is therapy that I'm taking to essentially prolong the growth of my tissue, especially because I have an advanced and aggressive form of endo, that if I want to conceive, I need to keep that inflammation down as much as possible. I need to keep my estrogen regulated as much as possible. And this is a good alternative because I don't want to start messing with my estrogen levels, because that's where you get a lot of side effects from, which we'll go into. She did talk a little bit about what the options would be, worst case scenario for me. So hopefully I remembered most of the information that I had talked about that got deleted. That's happened like 4 times as I've been recording this. So thank you guys. I don't know if at any point I sound jumbled or like I kind of wasn't doing things sequentially, but it keeps happening where I'll record like 40 minutes worth of stuff and then I look and it's like my phone crapped out 20 minutes ago. So basically, I hope I covered everything. So basically, I came in for the ultrasound appointment for my labs. That's what I was talking about right there too. This is what I think was on the part that got deleted, but my labs. So I come back, I do the ultrasound, I do the labs. The results from the labs were actually not alarming, but they were really off. And it was actually attributed to my endo. So what I didn't tell you guys is between the time that I had that ER visit and basically throughout the whole entire month of April, because I did the ER visit very end of March, and it wasn't until after the first week of May had passed that I actually started feeling kind of a little bit better. The whole month of April, I was nauseous almost every single day. My ovaries, usually my left side, but even sometimes my right side, constant cramping. Like, it was just miserable. I was exhausted. Sitting down for a long time started to hurt. Standing up for a long time started to hurt. After 11 a.m., I was exhausted. I had no appetite at all. If I did have an appetite, it was usually for like fruit, something that was like probably full of like simple sugar, but light, like not like junk sugar, but like fruit was like the best thing. Drinking Pedialyte, like I just could not eat. I had no desire to eat because I was always uneasy to my stomach, and I was in pain and I was just exhausted. Like, I have no idea how I got through my finals, and it's just really crazy because because it was the end of the year, we did have all these finals and exams, and I somehow survived them. Thank God the unit that we did at the end wasn't like the hardest unit we've done. But like, we even took like a fake board exam, and I remember all my friends were just like, dang, Amanda finished quick. Like, I literally just like got in there, click, 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 and I was like done. Like, people were only like halfway through there. I definitely saw somebody finish before me, but like people were like halfway through the exam and I was done. And that's because I didn't take any breaks. I didn't play around. I didn't overthink a question. It was like, either I know it or don't, clicked one and moved on. And it's really had a lot to do with my energy levels, my ability to focus, the fact that I was literally physically ill for 2 weeks prior to that day and was still physically ill throughout all of that. Like, it wasn't a graded exam, but we were supposed to do our best to see a score, but I literally couldn't even push myself through it. Like, I was just going through it. Not to say that I wasn't reading and I didn't try at all, but like, I read the question. If I knew it, I looked for the answer. And if I didn't know it, I'd maybe give it one quick glance, and if I didn't know it, or a second quick glance, if I didn't know after that, I moved on. But that's just how miserable I was for literally an entire 5 weeks after going to the ED. That episode, I don't know what it did with my body, but I was out. So when I got my labs back, it showed that I had high creatinine, and my blood sugar levels were super, super low. And she said, like, okay, this is probably because you're malnourished. And I told her, I was like, yeah, that makes sense because I haven't been able to eat regularly for 5 weeks because I've been so just not feeling well. And I was like, this is the first week I'm starting to feel well. So this was May 9th. So this literally was a whole 5 weeks that I was just not eating. I was trying to sleep. I would sleep in kind of a lot and I just still felt exhausted. Like, it was rough. It was really rough. So that wasn't really a surprise to me, but the goal, of course, is when you're going into surgery, you don't want to be malnourished. But I told her, I was like, I'm just now starting to feel better. I already have a plan to like eat more foods and, you know, whatever. So that was the labs. Then we went to the ultrasound, and you guys got to know, like, this was like the biggest thing. I was just so sick, and I remember I was trying to smile at the ultrasound tech and be friendly and like, but I was really worried because in my mind, I was just thinking maybe it could be anything else. Maybe it'll just be anything else. And we start with my left ovary, and what we actually find is not one but two endometriomas. Behind that big, massive, almost 6 centimeter endometrioma, there was actually another one that we had seen for the first time that was about half that size. And so there was two on my left. Then we get to my right, and we talk about that. We know it's there. That's not anything new, but that second one was kind of like, oh, but it didn't really make a difference because like you have to get the one taken out anyway. So it was just like, wow, there's another one there too. That explains why my left side hurts so bad and why it feels crampy and all of those types of things. But it wasn't like it didn't change anything for my outcome or treatment, if that makes sense. So then we get to my right side, and I just straight up asked her, I was like, so the right side, we're kind of looking to see if there's a hydrosalphinx there, and I'm hoping it's not. And so we look at it, and even I'm seeing it directly on the screen in front of me, because at this clinic, they also have the screen where the patients can see it right in front of them. And as soon as I looked at it, I was like, that doesn't look tubular, and that does not look like a hydrosalphinx. And I was just like, I don't know for sure because I'm just a med student. I don't even remember this section that well, but I know what a simple cyst looks like because that's like one of the basic things that you learn. I was like, that thing looks perfectly round. There's actually two of them right beside each other. They look perfectly round. They don't have any like kooky tissue in them or out of them. They look like they're on the side of my tube, but like it doesn't look like it's blocking or in the tube. And the ultrasound tech, she was very, very knowledgeable. She looked at me and she was like, you know, I can never be 100%. And I know a doctor has already said that it may be a hydrosalphinx, but she was like, these just look like simple cysts to me. Simple paratubal, so that means like around your fallopian tube, cysts. And I was like, I'm scared to say it, but that's what it looks like even to me. I remember just being like, even I see that, you know? And so I just took a breath because still the surgeon, she has to look at it, right? She has to interpret it. So I go back to the waiting room and I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of like, you know, like I'm not necessarily nervous, but I'm just like waiting. And the surgeon comes in and she basically says, so like surprising, your endometrioma is still there. And one other thing had happened too. They actually found an endometrioma, a small one though, on my right side as well. So I had 3 endometriomas at this point. But I go in there and I'm waiting. Yeah, we already said that. So I'm waiting. She comes in and she confirms that she was like, I can never be 100%, especially when a different doctor has already said something else. But she was like, I don't see in what way, shape, or form this is going to be a hydrosalphinx. I just don't see it. She was like, when we do your surgery, we can flush the dye through, and they basically just put a liquid in a dye through, and they just make sure like everything goes through your fallopian tube and drains out to prove that there's no blockage. She was like, I'll do that for you when we do the surgery, but I am so certain that these are just simple cysts. And she was like, those don't even really affect your fertility once they're out. Since we're already in there, she was like, I just cut those right off and it's not even a problem. And we both took a sigh of relief. And I was very transparent with her. And I was like, I was really worried about that. And she looked at me, she was like, you know what, I was really worried about that too, but this is good news. And we kind of both, you could tell, like, even though she's the professional one, she has it from that angle, and me as a patient, I had it from my angle, but we both had that same, like, this is good, you know, because I'm sure her as a physician, like, she cares about my outcome, and to see a young person who, you know, wants to have kids and wants to maintain fertility, and to see that, that's like a win, you know, like, that has to make you feel good that, you know, your patient is better off than what you had thought. So basically, I, when it's all said and done, ended up having 3 endometriomas, 2 on the left, 1 on the right, and 2 simple cysts on my fallopian tube on the right side. So I had 5 cysts in total. And of course, you can't see endometrial tissue on the actual ultrasound. They can only see the cysts. So I knew I had 5 cysts, and I was booking for surgery, basically. At that point is also when we decided to go ahead and press forward with the hormonal therapy. So I started the birth control, and especially because the surgery date that I ended up having was actually the first day of when my period was scheduled. So that doesn't necessarily affect them being able to do surgery or anything, but I was like, if I'm gonna have to take this birth control anyway, I'd rather start now so I don't have that period while I'm also getting ready for surgery. Little did I know. So the birth control, the progesterone only birth control, because it's only one hormone, and she put me at the lowest dose possible for my stage of endometriosis, it doesn't necessarily just shut everything down like a traditional birth control would. It kind of needs some time to work with your cycle. So yeah, after when I was healing from surgery, there were some moments where I was like, I was struggling. But essentially, I'm just checking my notes here to make sure I didn't forget anything crazy. But essentially, yeah, I started the birth control. Didn't have anything crazy happen or anything like that. I can't remember if I had started spotting maybe 2 days or so before my surgery. I really can't remember, but I did vlog about it. So it'll be in the vlog, but I don't remember if I had started spotting a little bit before my surgery, but I think I did. I think I might have started spotting like 2 days before, just because one of the side effects of the birth control is spotting. So yeah, and then I had scheduled my surgery for, that appointment was on the 9th, and my surgery got scheduled for the 18th, which was amazing. There just so happened to be like a miraculous opening, and I was like, get me in as soon as possible. So that just so happened to work. So I had my surgery on May 18th, and yeah, right now I'm almost 3 weeks out. It's a Monday, and I'll be 3 weeks on Wednesday. So basically, my surgery journey, that is all vlogged. So if you guys are interested in that, please click the link, watch the playlist. I literally break it up by the days. It was crazy. Not just because of like the surgery, but because like life doesn't stop. I like overexerted myself multiple times. There might be some lessons in there that you guys can make heed of if you are getting your surgery. But overall, the experience was really, really good. I trusted her wholeheartedly. She did talk to me before the surgery and just, you know, go over a few things, make sure I was okay. And then my post-op appointment was very promising. Everything looked good. She was able to remove everything. She said that she was actually quite concerned when she first opened up my pelvis, because she said I had so much scar tissue and adhesions, and I can show you guys these pictures, but it's very hard to know like what you're looking at if you don't know what to look for. But basically she was like, the pictures don't even do it justice. She said when she first got into my pelvis, she said she was just cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting, and she thought it was just never going to end. And she was actually concerned that she wouldn't even be able to remove everything because there was just so many layers on layers. But she said what's crazy is once she actually got down to it, she was able to cut it out and it just cleared up. Like she was like, once I got down to the roots, she was like, I was just able to take it out. And it's just like almost like miraculous. It's like I'm an anomaly, and I'm glad I'm an anomaly because it just went so smoothly, especially when she was so concerned. Um, but basically, I had endo on my bladder, I had it on my posterior, which is the back, and anterior, which is the front pelvic wall. So on my peritoneum, that's the lining that goes like around your pelvis. And she said even like my intestines, like the bottom of my intestines was kind of getting pulled down, like up behind my like ovaries and uterus because of the scar tissue. So she's like, she cut all that and she released it. There was a couple of spots in different places that she, pretty much got everything. And she said what was really crazy is even though I had this like aggressive disease and she thought she was going to go in there and that everything was going to be kind of all over the place and ugly, I had so much scar tissue. But she said that my regular tissue, she said basically anything that wasn't endometriosis looked great. She said it looked strong, healthy, youthful. She was like, your tissue actually looks amazing. And she was just like, it was so great because for me to have that aggressive stage 4, she definitely verified. She was like, hands down, you're stage 4 endo because of the aggressiveness of it. For some reason, my actual healthy tissue was not like bothered at all. It was just like where the endo was, obviously there was inflammation, but she was like, other than that, if you didn't have endo on tissue, your tissue looked great. And that was basically one of the biggest things that she was worried about. She was saying, because what she'd say, she still gave me worst case scenario when I was in her office before surgery. And she said, because of your advanced stage and how aggressive it is, she was like, worst case scenario, if I get in there and there's not only macroscopic disease, which is essentially what she's cutting out, but as she said, if it looks like there's a lot of microscopic disease, which would be my tissue looking ugly and upset and just bleeding all over the place, super easy to like, to puncture and things like that. She said, that would mean that I have a lot of microscopic disease. And unfortunately, the only treatment for that is hormonal therapy. You can't cut it out. It doesn't just go away on its own. It can only grow. So you have to basically cut off the growth, which remember is estrogen is the fertilizer. So you got to cut off the estrogen. So essentially, if you have a lot of microscopic disease and you're not trying to conceive yet, but you need to keep your endo down, the only option is basically an estrogen blocker. We'll leave it at that. It's an estrogen blocker. And think about menopause. We all kind of know like about menopause, like, oh, you get hot flashes, it's uncomfortable, it can cause like mood changes, it gives you like foggy brain, hard to remember, all of these terrible symptoms. There's a reason why women hate menopause. The reason why you go into menopause is because of low estrogen. So imagine if you're taking a medication that blocks your estrogen, it's gonna essentially put you in menopause. So imagine me, I'm 28, going on 29 this summer, and I'm literally inducing menopause. Not only is that just terrible when you think about like the physical side effects, like who wants to be in menopause at all, let alone like in your late 20s. And on top of that, I'm like thinking, okay, well, I'm a med student. I can't have foggy brain. I can't have an issue remembering. I already have foggy brain, but issue remembering. But like all jokes aside, like that puts me at risk. Like that would be like just terrible. And so that was going to be the worst case scenario. And so when she said that my tissue looked great, I was like, first of all, that's just amazing to have such severe endo and still have healthy tissue. That just goes to show like you guys never know. Like a diagnosis is not God. A diagnosis is not everything that you are. Unless you go and you see the inner workings of your body, just take care of yourself and really just have hope. Of course, I do want to be a physician, so I understand the importance of diagnosis. I understand the importance of appropriate treatment. You're not going to fix everything by just being happy and living a healthy lifestyle, but that matters. It matters because yes, you need to know what's wrong with you. You need to get that diagnosis. You need to still do whatever is recommended by most healthcare professionals, and you can find one that you trust and that you feel like looks at all of your needs. But I suggest to definitely heed their advice, definitely take into consideration treatment recommendations that they may have, but also like do what you know is good for your body and have faith in your body and whatever you believe in, whether it is God, the universe, or just in yourself. Just take into consideration that your body has its own way of managing things, and if you are healthy, happy, have good nutrition, you're exercising, you keep your mood stable, try to be around people that make you feel good, that uplift you. Those things do matter, and they matter so much in disease. Your mental health and your overall wellness matters so much in disease. I have no idea if that has anything to do with my case, but it just made me feel like all the years where I tried my best to take care of myself weren't for naught. Like, I'm like, maybe this is why my tissue is strong, because I have worked so hard to be a holistically healthy person. And I do crazy stuff just like everybody else. Like, literally, obviously I wasn't eating for like 5 weeks, right? Like, I've been losing weight for like almost 2 years of my life at this point, like, because I'm stressed out from school and whatever else. Like, my life is like not exponentially different than anybody else's. It's just like the small things that I did do or that I did care about, just like the awareness of my body. I felt like in that moment when she told me that, it paid off, which may not be the case, but that's just the way I felt, and it meant a lot to me. So basically, she was able to pretty much remove everything. She said there's nothing that she wasn't able to get. She's like, everything looks beautiful. She's like, it literally looks amazing. The tissue looks healthy. All the endometriosis is gone, and it looks amazing. She basically just said, I want you to, every 6 to 12 months, get your ultrasounds, go to your OB, and watch your symptoms. Because she's like, at this point, even with aggressive endometriosis, you should be okay for about 2 years before it starts, the macro endo starts growing back. So she was like, if you start to have symptoms within the next 6 months or so, that means that there is some microscopic stuff going on. But she just felt confident that I would be okay because my tissue looked so healthy. But she was like, stay on your birth control. Don't get off that norethindrone, I think it's called. But she was like, stay on your birth control. That's going to be the biggest help for you to manage if you have any microscopic endo. Which I'm sure I have to, but like, if I have a lot of it, or just to keep it down. But she was very, very positive about me being okay. All my incisions looked good. Just ultimately, it just ended up being a really, really good experience overall. So I just wanted to say, if you've watched this portion of my story and my journey, thank you so much, so much. And if you are also finding out that you have endo, or you think that you may have endo, definitely give a comment. Like, let me know. I would love to talk to some of you ladies about some of the struggles you've had, or even the successes you've had, different things that you've learned about your journey. I would just love for you guys to share. If you liked this video, please like it and support me, because I have no idea like how people are even gonna ever see this video. So like, please like the video if you found it helpful, inspirational, informative, or maybe you just liked hearing me talk. I would love that. And of course, subscribe, because I'm going to continue to post videos. I'm going to continue to post about like my actual post-op experience live with my vlog. Well, it was live at the time with my vlog. So yeah, just reach out. Feel free to interact with me. I would absolutely love that. And then stay tuned for the next part of the endometriosis story.